like to call to order the October 1st, 2024 regular meeting of the Chino Valley Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner Zamudio, would you say the pledge for us today?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We have two commissioners missing, Commissioner Welker and Commissioner Penn, but we do have a quorum. So we're going to move forward to item C, which is the consent calendar, which amounts to approval of two separate meeting minutes, August 7th of 2024 and September 3, 2024. Anybody have anything that they want to remove out of that, or can we move forward?
Make a motion to accept.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. So we're going to move forward to item D1, TA 2024-05, definitions. A request to amend the Town of Chino Valley Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 154, Section 2, definitions. Has anybody on the commission spoken with anybody outside of this meeting on this matter? All right, we're good. Will.
Actually going to have Lori do a little brief introduction here.
All right.
So in January, we advertised for two staff advisory committees. One is for our zoning code update. The other was for the solar ordinance. That group has been meeting since February, and they've pretty much finished their work. Staff has a draft ordinance that we are finishing, and that will be before you as a body at our regular meeting in November. This is the definition piece, which is pretty factual about what they are, but we felt that it might be easier for us to pull the definitions out and you put those in place ahead of time, so we're not complicating the ordinance that we will bring before you that has a number of pieces to it. So it isn't just solar. There's some other things that we needed to have definitions on because we keep track. You've seen my desk. I keep track of things that are a problem in our code. And if we can make some quick amendments to it, then that's what we try to do. Our zoning committee and that whole process is going to probably take 18 months for us to rewrite the entire zoning code. And so for us to be able to correct some of these definitions or add definitions that we need before a year and a half, that was the goal for this meeting tonight. So we're not talking about the solar ordinance tonight. We're just talking about definitions tonight.
All righty. So I will go ahead and segue into this. You're going to hear me talk for a good amount of time here. I'm going to just read through these one by one. Will Dingy, I'm your Assistant Director for Development Services here. So starting off the bat, defining, like Lori said, a good chunk of these are solar, but several of these are not. First couple are though. So starting off, battery energy storage systems, or abbreviated as BESS, an electrochemical device that charges or collects energy from electrical grid or an electricity generating facility, such as a utility scale solar photovoltaic facility, and then discharges that energy at a later time to provide electricity when needed. Second one here, decommissioning plan, a plan that guides the dismantling and disposal of the deactivated utility scale solar photovoltaic facility. I had to practice that many times. And restores the site to its pre-construction conditions, including concrete and rebar up to 4 feet below the disturbed surface of the ground. And then our first non-solar here is frontage for cul-de-sac and knuckle lots. This has been a challenge for staff over the last couple of years when it comes specifically to subdivisions and how you manage the frontage of a lot that fronts on a cul-de-sac or a knuckle. There's been several different interpretations of how we've done that over the years, so and it varies. And then we ultimately end up arguing that with the developer. So we are taking it to clearly define that in order to calculate the frontage on these lots, it is to determine the minimum lot frontage for cul-de-sac and knuckle lots, begin at the points where the side property lines touch the road, measure back along side property lines a distance of 30 feet, measure the distance between the 2 points, and that'll be your frontage dictated by each respective zoning district. A little bit further down here highlighted is knuckle. We'll get into that as what that defines because we do not have that currently in our code. So then getting into frontage double or double frontage lots. This is an interior lot that has frontage on 2 non-intersecting streets. So this isn't a corner lot. This is a lot that has a front street, and then you have a alleyway or a back street at the rear of your property. We don't have too many of those here, but we needed to make sure we called those out so we know how to address them. Front yard setback. Again, another definition that's not super clear in our code. The minimum allowable distance from the ultimate street right-of-way line to the closest point of the foundation of a building or projection thereof, parking lot, or any accessory structure in commercial, industrial, and multifamily zones. The front yard setback is required to be landscaped. Then we go into knuckle here. It's really hard to kind of describe this without a picture or, looking at your finger knuckle, but a knuckle is the outermost edge of a rounded or curved area of a roadway or land that connects other sections of road, often used in subdivisions where roads bend. And then it references see frontage, cul-de-sac, and knuckle for how to calculate that. And what we're referring to here is this outer bulge, essentially, and it falls into the category of a cul-de-sac. You get kind of a tight pinch on the front end of your lot, and then you usually get a wide mouth as it goes out, and then we just needed to make sure that we can calculate those, but they are different than what a cul-de-sac is. Now we're jumping back into solar photovoltaic, arrays of cells containing a solar voltaic material that converts solar radiation in direct current electricity. Private utility is something that we have not had in our code before. Currently our code just has public utility, which is defined as a public or private utility. So we needed to separate those out. Now this is a lot of illegal here, so bear with me. A company or entity that provides essential services such as electricity, water, sewer, natural gas, or telecommunication directly to the general public and is not owned by a government entity, by a political subdivision of the state, or entity operating within the corporate limits of the town pursuant to a franchise or license agreement permitted by state law and granted by the town. These do not include utility generation facilities. Continuing on to page 2 here, solar array, a large number of solar panels or an interconnected system of solar panels or an integrated system of solar panels that deliver an on-site generated electricity to a single connection point at a desired voltage. Solar facility, a place that converts sunlight into electricity using photovoltaics or other sunlight conversion technology, along with the necessary equipment for generating electricity. A solar facility may include electrical substation, transformers, transmission lines, and battery energy storage systems. Solar facility use permit. This is something we'll talk a lot about next month. A permit required to be issued by the town of Chino Valley that signifies that the developer has completed or agreed to complete through a development agreement all conditions and requirements of the project. This permit must be issued before a project is deemed approved by the town. Solar panel, multiple photovoltaic cells interconnected in an electrical circuit, which may be connected to an exterior circuit at a single point. Solar project area, again, we'll just talk about this more next month. The total acreage encompassed by a solar facility, including buffers, wildlife corridors, and other areas which remain unfenced and undisturbed. Tract. Now this one plays into one of the definitions that we are revising, lot specifically. This definition was needed following a relatively recent replat within a subdivision where developer took a piece of land that was designated as a open space tract. Because we didn't have any code that said they couldn't do it, they replatted it and built a home on it. So we're wanting to tie that and make sure that that cannot be done again. So a tract is a piece of land that is identified for a specific purpose within a subdivision. Land with this identification is not intended as a lot, and we'll talk about lot here in a sec. Utility generation facilities. A facility or installation that generates electricity for distribution to the public through a utility grid. These facilities can utilize various energy sources, including fossil fuels such as coal, natural gas, nuclear power, or other renewable resources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal. The primary purpose of utility generation facilities is to produce electrical power on a large scale, typically for sale to the public or private utilities, which then distributed to electricity customers. Wildlife linkage will be a hot topic again next month. The area of land used by wildlife to move between or within habitat areas to complete activities necessary for survival, reproduction, and maintenance of the population. Such areas are identified by the Arizona Game and Fish Department and consist of interconnecting wildlife corridors and undisturbed lands that that provide contiguous connection between habitat areas. Now these two, we remember the outrage that we did get when we talked about this in November, wind farm and wind turbine. The intention is to not allow these within town of Chino Valley. We heard that loud and clear. We have no provision in general plan to allow for these, so we still need to define them though. Wind farm, a group of wind turbines in the same location used to produce electricity, and a wind turbine is a device that converts the kinetic energy of wind into electrical energy. Now to close us out on the revised definitions, on the definition for lot, the only thing we are adding is that it excludes tracts, and we'd previously defined what a tract is. And then public utility, as I previously mentioned, at the bottom here you can see this is what our code currently reads with the strike through in it. It is a private or public facilities for distribution for various services such as water, power, gas, communications, etc. to the public. Getting rid of that, and we are defining it with a company or entity that provides essential services such as electricity, water, sewer, natural gas, or telecommunications directly to the general public and is owned by a government entity or a political subdivision of the state or entity operating within the corporate limits of the town pursuant to a franchise or license agreement permitted by state law and granted by the town. So that is all of our definitions. Before I open it up for questions, tonight's recommended action is to hold a public hearing, and then staff's recommendation is to forward a recommendation of approval to town council for this text amendment as presented. So the highlighted portions tonight were not included in your packet. There were little holes that we had identified, so we did add those tonight. So in the motion this evening, please ensure to read it that it is as presented and not just what was in your staff report. So go ahead and open up for questions.
I have a couple of,
Sure.
I guess they're administrative questions. On the definition of,
You'll need to pull your microphone a little closer. Thanks.
can you hear me now? Okay. On the definition of decommissioning plan, you say utility scale solar photovoltaic facility. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to call it solar facility because we have solar facility defined, and they're basically the same thing?
Hang on. So, Vice Chair, we will be providing a definition for utility scale solar photovoltaic facility at our next meeting. The reason we didn't put that in there is because it will also have a minimum number of acres that's required in order to meet that definition, and we didn't want to have that discussion tonight. We felt it was more important to have it at the meeting where we're talking about the solar ordinance.
Fine, thank you. And then on the frontage cul-de-sac and knuckle lot, it says measure the distance between the 2 points. Is that on an arc or a straight line?
Straight.
Straight line.
Straight line?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And then lastly, and again, this is more administrative than anything, on the term photovoltaic, the last word on the first sentence, you say solar radiation, indirect current, electricity. Maybe it should be into?
Yep.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, I anticipate that the ordinance we were given as an attachment, that would be revised to include the knuckle and track. So,
Absolutely.
so when we say as presented, we're also referencing the ordinance.
You are correct.
Right. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Just one. Any reason why we couldn't remove, under decommissioning plan, remove up to 4 feet? Just
Are you
remove
looking to go deeper or whatever's there?
Exactly. Why put a distance on it? Just remove the words up to 4 feet. So it would just say concrete and rebar below the disturbed surface of the ground.
How about if we say including all concrete and rebar above and below the ground? That
You
would
can do
cover
that.
it.
Most of the ones that we read did have a limit of 4 feet. I'm not sure that they go much deeper than that.
Well,
If they did, I would want it returned completely back
yeah,
to the way it
that's
was.
the whole
We just
point.
wanted to make sure that they didn't stop at the surface, that they actually went below the surface to get rid
And
of that stuff.
So if we include the wordage, remove all concrete and rebar above and below the ground without a specified distance above or below, then there's nothing that can prevent us from going higher or lower in the way I'm looking at it. Because there is a possibility in the future that some of these panels get bigger, the footings,
Might get deeper.
foundation go deeper in the ground to accommodate.
Or if they're on an incline. and they want 'em level.
Does that kind of cover it? So a plan that guides the dismantling and disposal of deactivated utility, well, we won't get at, and restores the site to its pre-construction condition, remove all concrete and rebar above and below ground.
So when you, and to carry on a little bit more discussion, when you say a deactivated utility scale solar photovoltaic facility, does that also include battery storage?
It will, correct.
Okay, you're saying it will, but in this wordage, can we make it specific that it includes all devices?
Well, it says pre-construction.
So I
It says
believe, Lori,
pre-construction-
correct me if I'm wrong
says
on this.
pre-construction condition. So that would cover it.
Okay,
We okay?
So long as it includes everything in the definition
Of
of solar
correct.
facility.
Yeah.
Which is all the substations,
that, I guess
transformers,
that's more of what I
transmission
was
lines.
getting at. Does
Yeah.
that include, is a boy, no matter you have trouble with these words.
It's hard.
Photovoltaic facility, does that also mean a battery storage system is that part of the photovoltaic?
Correct, yeah, within that definition that we'll present with the ordinance, it will include those components, it'll sweep it.
What about the high power line poles? Those big
Yeah.
The transmission
That's
line.
under solar array,
Yeah.
so yeah, it would, under solar facility, includes all
Correct.
that. Includes substations, transformers, transmission lines,
Yeah.
and battery energy storage systems.
Okay.
Unless they put eagle nest on top of them.
Another discussion.
All right, anything, or,
Motion?
no, we need a public hearing first, but want to make sure we're all good with staff questions before.
Okay, so is that all the questions for staff? All right, so We don't have an applicant or representative. We don't have a applicant from P and Z, but we do have the opportunity for public comments. So this portion of the meeting, I'm going to open it up to the public. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you. So far, I'm going to call one person's name, and then if you want to raise your hand later, I'll be happy to call you. You get one opportunity to speak. You get 3 minutes. You'll be polite, concise, hopefully not repetitive. I know there's not very many people here tonight, but I try to keep the rules the same for every meeting. And with that, I'm going to call on, and I'm going to mess this up. I'm normally not so tongue-tied. Ken Chan. The photovoltaic thing messed me up, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff, thank you for the time to be able to speak. My name is King Chan. I live in unincorporated Yavapai County. And we're a little concerned with the big movement towards photovoltaic or solar
It's
farms.
contagious, isn't it?
Exactly, you know. And I think one of the things that happens is that we've all heard a lot of information from industry. And I think what happens is we've reached out, and I'm sure staff has done a lot of work and a lot of research in trying to find out information of what other areas you're doing for their P&Z plans and ordinances that are out there. My concern is that a lot of these plans have actually been significantly influenced by the industry. We looked at one of the definitions and we talked about removing concrete and rebar. What about all the chemicals that leached into the ground? What about remains of the solar panels that have broken and then fallen into the ground? We don't address that in this ordinance. Here's the other concern. There's 2 words that if you want to go back to the county, not only the County Board of Supervisors meeting, but also the P&Z meetings. There was a representative from the solar industry who was there. She used 2 words, and you can actually see it on the documents that she sent to the county. And the 2 words were reliability and economics. That is the priority of the president of the Arizona Solar Industry Association. She said it more than once. She put it on paper, and she also said it in public comment. My concern then becomes, if we have a solar industry whose 2 primary responsibilities or concerns are economics and reliability, they don't care about you and I. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about our water source or the wildlife that exists out there. So I'd like to challenge you all. Again, I'm grateful for the staff spending all the time that they have to write this ordinance or develop the draft for the ordinance. But I'd like you to take a really good look at it so that you can go back and say, hey, is this something that we want in our community? And again, I'm not anti-solar, but is this something that's going to be safe for us? At this point, we're looking at a potential plan that's going to put solar directly over an aquifer. Now, we may sit there and say the solar industry tells us that it's fine. They're telling us that there's no hazards that are going to occur and are going to drift down into our water source. Just like I told the County Board of Supervisors, there's three industries we've got to look at. The first one is Big Pharma. They lied to us about a lot of things. Tobacco. Tobacco actually has lied to us about some things as well. And the last one I'm going to mention is Monsanto. They're paying billions of dollars in fines for causing cancers because things drift into water. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to step up and speak? All right. I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting. And I don't know, Will or Lori, which one of you wants to maybe address a couple of the comments that were made?
Sure thing. All right. So one of the big, from what I heard, was what do we do with the decommissioning plan and how it omits the chemical and potential broken panels on site when it comes to that decommissioning itself. We'll really get into that on the next month's meeting. The decommissioning plan ideally is for a perfect world. They have to plan that. You're not going to plan that you're going to have broken panels or whatnot at the end of this. They're going to be completely sweeping it and turning it back to natural grade. when you have those breakages from like hailstorms or whatnot, those will be part of the development agreement that they have to have a plan in place to remediate that area in those severe instances. I believe I kind of covered most of it there on that, if you've tracked that.
So,
Sure.
go ahead.
Well, just to make it very clear that this draft ordinance is just to describe definitions.
Correct.
It in no way authorizes or allows any solar facility to go into the
Correct.
town of Chino Valley.
You're
So
absolutely correct.
we're not even to that point yet. So this particular thing we're addressing tonight is just adding definitions to the code, purely.
So is it a concern with the staff or the commission that some wordage like all components or including chemicals and byproducts, is that something that we should consider putting into this wordage tonight? Because this is definition night to cover the bases.
I think that'll come out in the,
So that's something that's in
if
the
a draft
future.
ordinance, it was where everything gets specific, if I'm correct.
You are correct.
This is just general definitions.
Okay, so just doing my diligence here. All right, so the way that I'm hearing it is that this definition is adequate and that more precise and inclusive material will be added when the ordinance is drafted.
You are correct.
All right. There's no applicant response, so is everybody satisfied that we've asked the questions that we need to ask? That's the first time I asked that question. Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to move to approve text amendment TA 2024-05 as presented, subject to the staff report and information provided during this hearing.
Including
And
your
additional
wording.
items.
Pardon?
And the changes that were made.
That's covered by information provided.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Second and last time I'm gonna ask. All right, this will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Welker,
Yes.
Commissioner Metters,
Yes.
Commissioner Switzer,
Yes.
Commissioner Zamudio,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pasiak,
Yes.
Chair Merritt.
Yes. So we have a unanimous vote. So we're gonna close that portion of the meeting. Before we go any further, I want to say thank you for your speaking tonight. You provided valuable information. I will say that this commission will do everything in its power to provide as much safety, protection, and lifestyle values for this town and this solar project. I think all of us up here are very concerned about it, and we're going to do as much diligence as we can and educate ourselves as much as possible. Are we all in agreement with that?
Definitely.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move forward to item E, which is action items, which we don't have any. We're going to go to item F and F1. Staff, you're going to tell us how good we did.
Yes. All right. I'm gonna pull it back up. Hang on here. All right. So prior actions that went to, or prior items that went to town council, we had our infamous Connex box text amendment, and it finally got put to bed by town council. It was, so I mean, most recently this whole year, but we had notes dating back to 2014 about this stuff. So kudos.
So basically, everything that you passed back to
Yes.
council is what they approved.
Awesome, no changes. Sweet.
They didn't
Yeah.
make any changes.
Nope, they went with it. It was very, very relieving. And then the other one that went was the rezoning for Christopher Barrett. It was that rezone off of West, I think it was West Road 1 South. It was a 3-acre piece of land, AR5 to SR1. They were cutting it in half. That did get approved unanimously by town council.
Excellent.
That is all I have on prior action.
So we also the town received an award for our general plan. Once a year, all the planners get together and meet, and we find out what new laws have been changed, and we touch bases with our peers. And part of that includes a little bit of friendly competition. And so we submit either a great ordinance that we've written, or a new plan, or a new project. And this year, our consultant asked if they could submit our plan to enter into the competition. So we received the highest award for a general plan with a town population of under 50,000.
Good job.
That's awesome.
Excellent. That's awesome.
So just a word on that. The folks that helped us with that did a great job, but town staff provided great input, and the committee for the
Absolutely.
general plan spent many long hours and dedicated time to this, and now we're bearing some fruit from that. That's awesome.
First one for Chino.
Yep.
All right, good. Was that it, Will?
Good news.
I wish I could follow that up with something better, but I can't. So
That's pretty good. Congratulations. Okay, so does anybody on the commission have anything they'd like to expound on this evening? Okay. The next portion of the meeting is for the chairman to speak. I don't really have a huge amount of things to talk about tonight. I do have some things I'd like to reiterate, is that we have some big ordinance stuff coming up. One of them is solar, the other one is livestock. Be aware that we're all doing everything in our power to do the right thing up here. It's not in defense of ourselves, it's a pledge for us to do the very best that we can with what's brought before us. I'm going to encourage the livestock folks again to help us by providing information on care for the animals. Quantity seems to be something we're trying to go away from because it's not working out well. So if people can provide information to anybody on the commission or town staff, preferably town staff because they're better at writing stuff down, that would be good. Your comments are welcome so that when we have the next meeting on the livestock, which is in the future, we can get down to business of doing something instead of yelling at each other. The solar thing, there's a lot of education that we're going to have to go through, and we're going to do our due diligence to the best of our abilities. I mean, we have a good bunch of folks up here. We're going to lose one, unfortunately, but somebody will take his place and struggle. All right, that's all for me. Now, this next item is for the public. If somebody would like to speak that's from the public on any item that is not, repeat, not on the agenda, to be clear with that, you're welcome to come up to the microphone, and you have 3 minutes, and the rules of the other portion still apply. So would anybody like to come up and say anything? All right, we'll close that portion, and then we'll go to item G.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you, folks, for showing up tonight. We appreciate you.